Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie. If you are new here, I do all kinds of lifestyle videos, motherhood vlogs, and a few personal finance videos. But today's video is going to be specifically about things I will not be doing with baby number 2 that maybe we did with baby number 1. Some of these things are because they're out of my control, and other things are because I decided I don't want to do them anymore. Both my dogs are sleeping and snoring in the background, so please ignore that. Okay, starting off strong with this one. The first thing that I'm not doing this time is hiring a doula and a chiropractor. Now, I will say if you watched anything from my last pregnancy, you know that those two things were substantially helpful for me in my pregnancy. So this is a little bit more out of my control. First, I have not been able to find a chiropractor here that I trust the same that I did with my chiropractor in Raleigh. So I have not done that. As far as a doula goes, we looked into it. One, I'm most likely getting a scheduled C-section this time, so I don't really feel like getting a doula is even worth it monetarily unless we were to get someone for like aftercare services, like after we have the baby. There is a chance possibly that I'll go into spontaneous labor and then I won't have a doula, which will be a little bit crazy, but honestly the doulas here are like 3 times the price of what we paid in Raleigh because it's fully out of pocket and we have just like so much stuff going on finance wise at the beginning of the year. It just wasn't doable. Like I can't pay almost $3 grand for a doula. The second thing I will not be doing with baby number 2 is being induced. I will never be induced again. My trauma from my birth comes mostly from being induced, not incorrectly, but not in the best way that was right for my body. My body physically didn't handle the induction well. Ivy's body didn't handle the induction well. That's why I ended up in C-section. I'm just not getting induced this time, and this is something that my OB also agrees with, which is why we're going with, well, one of the reasons why we're going with a scheduled C-section. Now, if for some reason I go into spontaneous labor before my scheduled C-section and I want to try for a vaginal birth, we'll see, but I will not be getting Pitocin or anything like that. Like if there's any reason to be induced, it will just go straight to a C-section. Number 3, having a nursery / buying a crib right away. We don't have room for it in this house. Moving here, as you guys know, we needed to get out of a moldy home. It was impossible to find a house that was bigger and had more space. Because my husband works from home, we have a 3-bedroom home that we rent. He utilizes an entire room for work, and it's not something that can be shared for anything, especially with the kids. Ivy's room is very small. There's really not enough room for a second crib in there. At some point we might, if we have to, put a crib in our room, and we'll have to move my desk somewhere else. But I actually think we're gonna do like a little makeshift nursery down here, at least in the beginning, because with a C-section and stuff I shouldn't be moving around too much. There's a bathroom right here. I can get outside very easily if I need to like get in the car or something. It's only 1 set of stairs up to the kitchen if I need to go, plus it's like an open area so I can see if somebody's talking to me or whatever. We can move some of Ivy's toys up here into the dining room. We have like a dining area, but we don't have a table, so it's her playroom basically. So some of these extra toys that are down here don't need to be down here. So we will plan on putting like the bassinet down here. Any of my postpartum needs, I'll probably sleep down here. Honestly, we sleep on the couch most nights anyway because it's more comfortable. Our bed is fine, it's our bedroom, which is a whole different story. It won't be that different for me, but especially right postpartum, it's gonna be much easier to have this closeness to the bathroom. We'll go from there. Obviously, we'll have to figure something out if baby isn't sleeping well down here because there's noise from Ivy or the dogs. So like maybe during the day, we'll have to like move the bassinet up and down. Ben has thankfully 10 to 12 weeks of paid parental leave. He can help with all that kind of stuff if we want to have the baby nap somewhere else. But again, to be honest, Ivy napped a lot on us. Like she was a contact napper. She napped like right next to us on that couch. She did nap occasionally on the Snuggle Me, which I know is not safe, but I mean, I literally was staring at her the whole time. That might happen with this baby too. So we'll just see and we'll play it by ear, but we do not have space for a nursery, nor do I like have the time or the money to be spending on nursery stuff. So we won't be having one until we move into a bigger home. At some point, the kids will most likely share a room unless we get like a very large home for some reason, but I don't think it's bad, especially when they're little, to be sharing a space. It's just that the space that we have right now is very small and there's like not room. And I think I've talked about this before, but Ivy didn't start sleeping through the night until September of this year. So she was like 18, 19 months old, 20 months old maybe. I'm not messing with that. Like a newborn waking up consistently, any of that stuff, or a young baby, I don't want to mess up Ivy's sleep. Like the newborn is gonna sleep how it sleeps, but I'm not messing up that toddler's sleep if I don't have to. So until they're sleeping a little bit more normally, I'm not gonna have them share a room if I can help it. Number 4, exclusively breastfeeding or pumping if it's something that I just can't do anymore. I think I pushed myself last time to continue trying breastfeeding even though it wasn't working for me. I pumped a lot longer than I wanted to, and a lot of it was because Ben wanted me to. I blame him for nothing, but I'm just saying that this time I need to make the decision based on what's best for me and my mental health. My mental health took a really hard hit postpartum last year. If you've seen any of my anxiety videos, I am fine with a formula fed baby. Ivy was mostly formula fed because I didn't produce much milk, and she's like the smartest kid I've ever met. I'm really not worried about it. If we need to switch to formula, we will. My mental health needs to be a priority this postpartum, especially having a toddler. Which goes into number 5, which is ignoring anxiety. I am not going to ignore these big moments of anxiety as long as I did last time. For me personally, if I need an up in my medication, if I need to see my therapist more, if I need to go to acupuncture more for anxiety, whatever, I'm gonna take care of that right away so that I'm not living with that intense postpartum anxiety like I did last time. Number 6 kind of goes with that as well, which is asking for help. The whole reason we moved back to the Midwest is because we wanted to have a second baby, and we didn't think that we could do it by ourselves in Raleigh. I feel like both of our families aren't necessarily like assertive enough to just like offer their help, so I have to be better at just asking for people to watch Ivy, asking for people to bring us food in the hospital. I already asked my sister-in-law to watch Ivy while we're in the hospital and to stay here and take care of the dogs and like vacuum the house before we come home, things like that. If we need help, even though Ben will be home because he will be on parental leave, we still will probably need help as we're adjusting and like not sleeping, things like that. So the whole reason that we moved home, especially to be in such close proximity to one of our families, which is Ben, they only live like 10-ish minutes away. We need to utilize that. Both Ben and I need to be more assertive with that. Number 7 on my list is keeping things that I don't want just because people bought them for us. I was very specific about what I wanted in this pregnancy from people. I put it in my baby shower stuff. I put it on my registry. A lot of people did not get us gifts, or they just got us like a gift card or something like that, which is perfectly fine. I would rather have that. I have gotten a couple of things where people have like thrifted for us, and you guys know that I like really struggle with scent, and I've tried washing the clothes and I can't get the scent out that the like thrift stores put in them. A lot of times I'll just like keep that stuff because I feel bad that somebody spent their money on us, even though I can't even be around it. Ivy was literally looking at one of the things one day and it like triggered a headache for me. So I'm just not doing it. Like if we don't have room for it, we have a very small house. We already have a toddler who has way too many toys, way too many clothes. If we need to get rid of stuff, whether it's for Ivy or for the baby, I'm not going to feel bad about it. I appreciate people trying to help us, and for the most part, everybody is very good at like asking what we need. Do you not want us to get stuff like this? So I appreciate that kind of stuff. I'm not being like stuck up about thrifted clothes. I wish that we could use thrifted clothes. I have no issue with like inexpensive, in fact reusing clothing, better for the environment, totally up our alley. It's just for some reason thrift stores use such scented stuff a lot of times and I can't get it out, and I'm not going to use a ton of chemicals to like strip clothing. I don't have time for that, even if I wanted to use a ton of chemicals to strip clothing. I've done all the like natural things, and it just, if the smell's not coming out, I'm not keeping it, you know. Number 8, one thing I'm not doing is not preparing for food postpartum. We didn't really do it last time, and it was okay because we didn't also have a toddler, but this time we also have a toddler. I want to make sure that I'm eating enough to see if that helps with my supply. So if it does, I just want to make sure that I'm still eating like a healthy diet that feels good on my body versus just eating like whatever is around. I also used and ate a lot of eggs last time, and now I know that I have an allergy, so that'll probably help with my stomach issues, but I just want to be better in general with that. If we have time, I might make a couple of postpartum meals that we can just pop in. I want to have a list of like easy things that we can make and have on hand, whether it's like crock pot meals or something like that, that like Ben or I can like throw in and it'll just be done. And then on top of that, if people ask us what we need, I'm gonna say like, bring us a meal, send us a meal. You know, I'll probably ask people to maybe bring us something while we're in the hospital, because the hospital food is terrible. I know, because I was in the hospital in April and it was terrible. I just want to be better with food in general and make sure we're like actually nourishing ourselves, especially making sure that Ivy is being nourished. Number 9, one thing that I'm not doing is dealing with nurses or doctors that aren't helpful. This also goes back to being assertive. I've had a couple people recommend that I tell my nurses and my doctor, but especially my nurses, the day of my C-section and like postpartum healing, that I had what for me was a traumatic birth the first time, and I really want this birth to go differently. I need to be assertive about that. I want to have a birth preference written down that I can give to someone. If I don't feel like that's being followed, I want to be assertive about it, and if I can't, then I want Ben to be. I feel like last time we were kind of depending on our doula to do that, and the 2 big traumatic things that happened when our doula wasn't able to be there. Either she wasn't there yet, or they didn't allow her in the room, in the operating room. I want Ben and I to be ready to be assertive. He and I just aren't always great at being super assertive in certain situations, especially if we're feeling overwhelmed. I want to be good about that. I'm going into it assuming that I'm going to have great nurses. I already trust my doctor, but I just want to make sure that I tell them what I want. Number 10, another thing that I will not be doing is not getting out of the house, even if it's for short rides, coffees, walks, if I'm like feeling up to it once baby is a little bit bigger, things like that. Like, I feel like last time and this time too, we were very nervous about doing that kind of stuff because baby being born in winter and like all of the flus and things that go on in winter. Mentally, I needed to get out of the house, and I always felt really good in Raleigh when we would just like take a ride. We would go to the coffee shop, Ben would get me a coffee, I would sit in the car with the baby, and then we would keep going for a ride. We don't have that here because going for a ride in Schaumburg, Illinois is just, it's not a good time. There's little things we can do. We can drive to the coffee shop. We could drive to Ben's parents' house if we wanted to. We could drive to a cute little town like Wheaton or something if we want a longer trip that we can walk around. Take Ivy places once it gets a little bit warmer. Things like that where we're not necessarily around a bunch of people if that doesn't feel safe to us, but it's getting me out of the house. I already am feeling cooped up in this pregnancy because of how cold it is here, and I think that that could be really detrimental to my mental health later on, and Ivy's honestly, and Ben's, especially mine, because that's what I'm the most worried about postpartum wise. We live now in a colder climate. It's not as nature filled as Raleigh was. It's not as like beautiful and easy to just drive around and feel like chill and whatever. It's more of like metropolitan malls, a lot of busy roads, that kind of stuff. We just have to find different ways to feel like we can get into nature or feel like we can get somewhere that is calming and feels good for us, but is also getting us out of the house. I will not be getting the cheapest products that I can find. However, I will not also be getting expensive or trendy or brand name products if I don't want them. Like, that's not, I'm not on either side. However, I feel like in my first pregnancy, I almost felt guilty putting nicer things on my registry. I grew up being told that I was, you know, too much, dramatic. She likes champagne things on a beer budget, that kind of thing. And it just made me very self-conscious when I want a specific thing to like ask for that, because I feel like people are judging me. However, there were a lot of things that I put on my first registry or didn't put on it that I wouldn't have to be replacing right now if I would have just put a little bit nicer of an option on there. For example, our bassinet. The bassinet that I got was off of my registry. It was something that I asked for, and it was just like terribly made, very cheaply made, and now we had to repurchase one this time, and we had to pay for it because nobody bought us one. I just want to be like more cognizant of that. If there's certain things that are important, like softer clothing for the baby, or the type of wash and stuff that we use for the baby, or the food that we feed it, or whatever, I feel like we got better once we started with Ivy, but I do feel like at the beginning it was just like so overwhelming how much money kids can be. I just don't want to be pulled in either direction. I feel like sometimes you see all these influencers talking about these like crazy great products, but you have to remember that like A, they're not paying for that product most likely, and B, they just have a bigger income than I do. I don't necessarily need like this top $1,000 stroller or $1,000 bassinet or something like that because other people have it, but that also means I don't need to get like a $50 one or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but something that's like super cheap and falls apart within a small amount of time that it's used. So I just want to be better about that, not being pulled in the trendy direction, but also not buying cheap crap. And then number 12, I kind of talked about this, and this is just a funny one to end on, but I'm like really worried, not worried, but I will not be forcing myself to eat the hospital food, okay? Because we went there in April for my thing that got stuck in my throat, and the food was terrible. I am allergic to egg, and I really don't want to eat gluten, and that's not something I really want to mess with postpartum unless it's something like very high quality, not egg at all, but like gluten and even dairy. And I don't know, it's crazy to me how unhealthy food is at hospitals. Like you would think it would be a little bit better quality food than it is. And like when we were in Raleigh, I hated everything I ate, and I like forced myself to eat stuff, and it just made me feel really bad, and it like didn't help with postpartum healing. There's like meals included and how much they charge you and all that stuff, and I feel like my financial brain is like, I have to eat this food. No, I don't. We have family here. I can ask them to pick me up food. I can ask them to bring me food that we already have. I'm gonna have some healthy snacks with us and things like that that'll make me feel better. And one of the good things about living in a metropolitan area is we're close to like 1,000 restaurants. If I want to DoorDash some Qdoba or some sweet green or something like that, so I can actually get in like healthy food or just something that feels good on my body, then I'm gonna do that. And I'm not gonna feel bad about it monetarily. I'm also not gonna feel bad about it because I should be like using the free food or being a hindrance, any of that stuff. I'm out of that era. Like I'm tired of feeling like I'm too much. I am too much, and that's okay. And I'm gonna be too much for the rest of my life. I am who I am. I like to eat healthy. I like to have things that are good quality and make me feel good. I like to eat food that doesn't make me sick. That sounds silly, but there have been plenty of times that I've eaten stuff that I knew would make me sick because I didn't want to be a hindrance to somebody else, and like, that's so stupid. I'm not gonna do that in the hospital, nor am I gonna do that out of the hospital this time. So those are the things that I will not be doing with baby number 2. Let me know if there's anything I'm missing, if there's anything you'd like me to go into, and I will see you in the next video.